I'm Amber Fuhriman, and this is the Break Your Bullshit Box podcast. If you want comfort, this is not the place for you. If you're ready to understand what makes smart, capable, successful people, including you, keep repeating the same patterns, this show breaks down human behavior, drawn from real conversations and years of studying what makes people create change so that you can make better decisions, have better conversations, and get better results. So let's dig in and break the bullshit that's been running the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Break Your Bullshit Box podcast. Today I have such a great friend with me. Jenn T is so much more than a massage therapist. She's so much more than somebody who just what we think of when we think of massage therapy, just being that relaxation massage. She truly is somebody who understands how the body works, how trauma stores in the body, how that affects the way that we show up, the way that our body supports us or doesn't. She is such an incredible resource to the health community here in Las Vegas. And I'm super excited to dig into a conversation with her, not only because of her knowledge in that area and that world and how we can all be more successful, but because of her journey. And, you know, I've known Jenn for a really long time, and I have watched her really bloom into such an amazing business owner and supportive individual. And I'm super excited for you to get to meet her as well. So Jenn, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Amber.
I'm so excited to have you here. So our paths crossed through a way that I think a lot of people meet you, which is networking and BNI. I kind of want to start there for just a minute, because I think that networking has played such an incredible role in your success. Can you talk a little bit about what that's meant to you as you've built your businesses?
Networking isn't just about collecting business cards. It's actually taking a real interest in the other business owner, the other individuals, just people that you run into every single day, and more importantly, building a relationship. And it's not about what am I going to get today and all that. You and I get spammed all day long on LinkedIn and all social media. People see our names and they are like, oh, they have 10 million followers. Here, can I sell you this? Mm-hmm. And what they have to sell you has nothing to do with what you do. It's just you're being spammed by all these people. And I think in this day and age, and what networking has taught me, and especially BNI, is how do you do it well, thoughtfully, authentically, and with purpose? Not just for yourself, but for the other person.
Yeah, you said so much there, because I think you and I are both very well versed at the messages we receive. That's
exactly.
Like, I know that I have the solution to your problem. How can you possibly know that you have the solution to my problem? You don't know what my problem is, because we've never talked about anything, right?
Exactly.
So that there's a time and place that cold DM worked, and it just doesn't anymore, because we don't trust it. There's nothing there. More than that, though, what you just said about the relationship, about understanding somebody, about understanding how you can be of service to that person. When I hear you say that, what I hear is, no wonder she's so good at what she does. Because to me, I see such a correlation between understanding somebody in a networking environment and understanding what they truly need in a health environment.
Absolutely. And they all go hand in hand. One of my business coaches always said to me, you know what? You have many parallel lives. One's family, one's business, one's associates. You know, one is something that you dream about. But in each persona that you hold within yourself, you're working out different things. And let's say that you have problems with your family. Well, for sure, you have those same problems sprinkled here and there through business and through other friends. And when you work it out in those less volatile environments, you actually find the solution in the more volatile one. And so when I am networking or doing massage on people or sitting and listening to people in their presentations or something, or if I'm reading a book, I'm always looking for the common aspect that's applicable to many more scenarios than just one.
Yeah. I started here because I think that people understanding the way your brain works is going to be so important to them truly grasping the amazingness of your journey and your story. Because you weren't always a massage therapist.
Nope.
What made you decide that you wanted to go into this holistic healing world?
I've actually come full circle because when I graduated from university, my father handed me an application for med school, and I was like, Dad, I'm going to Wall Street. So I took a little detour. And I took a little detour because it felt right. And my godmother always said to me, do what you love, the money will come. And what I loved was travel, learning interesting things, and speaking Spanish 24/7. And that job on Wall Street offered me exactly that. And so it took a couple years for my father to understand, like, what the hell's going on here. But he loved the perks of having a daughter working on Wall Street, bringing back gifts, taking him on, like, nice trips, etc. But what did I learn on Wall Street? How to manage money.
It's a skill that is not taught.
It's not taught.
And we learn in NLP that people do the best they can with the tools and resources they have, right? So I would love to sit and look at parents and say, teach your kids about money, but they didn't learn.
Yep.
And we all approach so much about what we talk about in the human behavior world is the fact that we all see the world through the lenses of our own programming. And we've been told our entire lives, you don't talk about what? Money, politics, and religion. So if we're not going to talk about money, how are we supposed to manage it?
Exactly.
It's heartbreaking. What do you think it's going to take to break that cycle?
Education. It's going to
For who?
It's education on many different levels. It's education from parents who think, oh, I've got to hide everything. Can't tell them anything until the very last minute. Okay? My mother is 96 years old, and I'm just trying to get her paperwork together. And last year I realized what she thought she had her paperwork together, she didn't. It was years old, and none of it had been done. And then when it comes to parents, well, they need to be open with their kids. What's going on? Why are we doing this versus something else? And just that general conversation about what things cost makes people more aware. And then last but not least, when I was growing up, when we could, we had odd jobs, whether it was delivering newspapers. Yes, I'm telling you my age. Delivering newspapers, babysitting.
Wait, the ones they actually used to print?
The ones they used to print. Babysitting, doing little odd jobs for people here and there, dog sitting. All right. Since I was a child, my parents always said to me, when it comes to education, we're going to pay for everything. All right. You never have to worry about that. But if I wanted something extra, like a special shampoo or like a bracelet or something, that came out of me.
Yeah. I have these memories because I didn't grow up with a strong financial foundation. My parents didn't talk about it. And I think to your point, they feel like their job as parents is to shield you from suffering. Oh. And so when they maybe don't have everything that they want, they don't want you to know that. That shouldn't be your responsibility as a kid. But we know through human behavior that kids are so much more intuitive and resilient, and they see
They're very smart.
They feel it,
They're
right?
smarter today than they ever
so
were.
I didn't really, and I honestly think also there's two sides to this conversation of nobody talked to me about it, or did I not listen when somebody talked to me about it, right? So there's two sides of this. So I'll acknowledge that. But I have this very vivid memory because I graduated high school in 2000. And I went to college, and I was on campus for no more than 10 minutes before the little pop-up stand was there, where if you signed up for the credit card, you got a free t-shirt. right?
And you did it for the t-shirt,
and you do it for the t-shirt, right? Because I don't know that I need a credit card. I don't have a lot of debt. And then they give you this credit card and they're like, oh, it's only like a $200 limit. And you're like, what trouble can I get into with $200? And then you spend it and you make your first payment and they're like, oh, here's your $2,000 limit increase. At that point in time, back then, we were handing out these credit cards without a conversation about what it really meant. Does that take the responsibility away from people like myself to understand it? No, at all. It doesn't. But I think society didn't really invest in helping people understand true financial literacy. And I think that we're kind of sitting in the consequences of that as a society today.
And it's a lot easier when you just have a general conversation and that conversation becomes normalized. It's not something that it's a huge secret.
And there's no like shame, right?
There's no shame.
We have to stop feeling like if we don't have a certain amount of money, we're less worthy than somebody who has others.
There's no shame. And that's the key word. You feel like, well, if I'm not a billionaire, then, I'm not doing my part. 1, are you comfortable? 2, are you getting your bills paid? 3, do you have a little extra to have fun? 4, are you happy? Yes. If it's yes, 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 you've hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And take an extra $1 and go buy the lotto. Just in case. But what are we doing to ourselves? That's the key.
I agree. So how long were you on Wall Street for?
I was on Wall Street for almost 30 years.
I've known you for a long time, and there have been times where I've seen you and I'm like, yeah, that woman scares me, and I could see the Wall Street in you. I don't know that I would recognize full Wall Street Jenn. Like, what character traits did you have then that you've had to let go of to be who you are now?
Oh, to let go of all of that?
Mm-hmm.
Took a good 10 years.
What do you think you let go of? What served you in the Wall Street world that doesn't serve you in the world you're in now?
Ego. You have to understand also that I was in Wall Street at a time where it was still 99% men. And I was that 0.1% woman. And many a times when I was in these rooms of 500 to 750 men, sure, I was one of 5 women in the room, but I was the ranking VP. The rest of them were secretaries, personal assistants, like low-level operations people, that sort of thing, or janitors. Mm-hmm. That's it. So boys will be boys. And I could tell you a lot of stories, but the movie Wolf of Wall Street, that's pretty much what happens. Okay? So you had to have an ego, because if somebody stands up and screams across the room, it's like, hey, you can't do that, right? In front of 300 people. What's my response? Well, I'm not going to go into a shouting match, because why? You're a hysterical woman. So I had to build up a persona and an ego. All I ever did when somebody yelled at me across the way, and when I'm talking yelling at me across the way, we're talking a good 20 yards that everybody can hear. All I had to do was stand up and look at them. Mm-hmm. And all the guys around them would go, "Oh, you did it now."
Your stand up and look at them and that persona that you're describing is my attorney, Amber. Me having to let that go. And it's so interesting when I remember I was with my business coach, and we've always joked about attorney, Amber, that ego that you have to put on to do your job well.
Absolutely.
The walking into a courtroom and knowing you're not going to take shit from anybody, right? And there's like this softness that has to exist without weakness, which is, it's such a fine line. And I remember when I felt insecure in business, when I felt like somebody was questioning my value or my worth, which really was only me questioning my value or my worth, right? When I felt like I was in a place where I had to defend my right to be in a room as a business owner, that attorney Amber would come up because that was my protection mechanism. And I remember my business coach and I used to joke about attorney Amber. And then she pulled me aside one day and she says, you know, we've joked about it and I've seen pieces of it. This is the first time I've ever seen you go full attorney Amber, and it scared me. And I was like, oh, like, because I didn't even recognize it. It's so innately involved in who we were as women in a male-dominated field that you don't even recognize when it pops up till you're out of it. Letting go of that is one of the hardest things ever.
I'll tell you, the day I let go of it and the day that I recognized what I was doing, I had an old friend from New York come to visit me, and he was hanging around my house and stuff. And then I had another friend from Las Vegas come to meet him. And, you know, like all good neighbor things, she was checking out my house, doing this, doing that. And I had some fruit around and that I had collected for the homeless. And she just wanted a piece here and there. And all of a sudden I went ballistic on her. But I really went ballistic on her. And I don't realize that I did it. Mm-hmm. And I had my friend look at me and scream, Jennifer, stop it right now. Don't you realize you've already won? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, dead in my tracks, I had to shut off. And he was right. That here I was still fighting over a piece of fruit, right?
Yeah.
But the reaction I had was just a trigger from those days of rooms full of guys, and that I had to like really have this huge persona. And from that point on, I realized from where it came and switched off just like that.
You know, this kind of goes to what we were talking about before we started recording, because you and I both have spent a significant amount of time learning about who we are, learning human behavior. I mean, you came through training and
the most amazing training I've ever been through that still to this day, almost 2 years later, still affects me.
Mm. I really appreciate you saying that.
It makes me pause to review. And that pause is a huge difference between reaction and thoughtful engagement.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of where I'm going with this, is because you and I have spent so much time in school, we've spent so much time in environments that intellectually challenged us.
Yep.
We've spent so much time in places where maybe defending our right to be there is a little extreme, but kind of defending our right to be in the room, justifying our right to be in the room,
or owning the space in the room.
Much better description. That feels much better. And we intellectually learn and understand that we're standing in our own way.
Yep.
The willingness to act different, the willingness to drop what you've referred to as that ego, and I referred to as like the attorney shield, and say, here I am, do your best, because whatever you do is not going to affect me, because I'm secure in who I am, requires a courage that is probably one of the most frightening things I've ever done in my entire life.
It is frightening because now you're letting your guard down.
Yep.
And you're allowing somebody to see the softness and to poke it, and potentially be vulnerable. And Brene Brown says there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable.
Right.
Yet we grew up knowing or thinking that we knew that that was part of our strength. And that's part of what made everybody look up to us.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily the ticket in. The ticket in was, can I relate?
Yeah. You know, it goes, and I learned, this is one of the things that I learned through my NLP journey, was my resistance to almost anything feminine. Dressing up, wearing makeup, wearing dresses, getting my nails done, doing anything that I would describe as feminine, was so rooted in weakness for me.
Oh, okay.
Because of that softness. In my brain, I saw softness as weakness. And so I needed to be masculine. I needed to be strong. I needed to be attorney amber is the best way I can put it. And then as I started going through shifting and healing, all of a sudden my friends are like, you have dresses in your closet? You're wearing heels? My absolute favorite pair of shoes is a pair of yellow high heel ankle boots.
Good for you.
Oh, and it's been so much fun to tap back into that and acknowledge that, like, being a strong, badass woman is anything but weak.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you, when I had to walk into meetings where I definitely was the only woman in the sea of men, I always had my power suit. Bright fire engine red skirt, top, brass gold buttons, 3-inch high heels, skirt just above my knee, the appropriate Hermes scarf, the appropriate Hermes handbag, nails done, full-on makeup. When you see me dressed up, people don't realize, holy shit, is that Jenn? Okay, because I can really put it on, right? And there was a reason for me to do that, because there was a part of the side where I would be able to sit and meet with men. Why? Because they saw, oh, she's really, she looks great. I want to stand next to her because, just like you're the lucky person in the room if the dog comes to you and wants you to pet it. Well, I'm the only woman in the room, and how lucky is this guy to stand next to me for me to speak to them like I'm an ornament for him that gives him some extra cred. But being ornamental like this gave me the cred to walk up to a guy and say, hey, let's talk about business and this, that, and everything else. Why did I command his attention for at least 30, 45 seconds? Because he's focusing on my nails. He can't really see my boobs, but he sees my earrings dripping and all this. There's something shiny for them to look at.
Yeah, 100%. And that kind of goes to the stereotype of salespeople, right? Where they say that attractive salespeople will sell more than unattractive people will. And I don't necessarily agree that it has anything to do with external attractiveness. I think it's the confidence that comes along with that engages people. But you're right that kind of the doors are open a little bit easier when you have something that someone wants to engage with, and confidence can be just as attractive as somebody. So I say this because if somebody doesn't feel like they're incredibly attractive, they can still be successful. They just have to have that confidence to understand that those doors are open for them,
or understand what their own personal hook is. So when I was on Wall Street, there were 2 times that I made a lot of money, no matter what. One is if it rained. For some reason, it rains, I get it to rain money. The second is get a good cold. Have the flu. And all of a sudden, my voice goes down to here. And I sound like a woman who's been smoking 2 packs of Camels a day and drinks whiskey. I can get anybody to stay on the phone with me, even a cold call.
That's awesome. So
it's true.
You eventually decide that Wall Street is not Jenn's future. What made you decide to leave?
I've always had control of where I went on Wall Street. All right. And then it got to a point in my last job that I didn't have control. They wanted me to move to Europe. They wanted me to move to Copenhagen. They wanted me to do a lot of things. And I'm like, hell no, I don't want to do that. I didn't belong in Europe. I mean, if you sent me to London, that's something different. If you sent me to Florence or the south of France, it's something else. But Copenhagen, too small. too small whatsoever. Love,
because you were in New York at the time.
I was
right?
in New York City at the time, and I love Scandinavian culture, the Danish culture, so much of that. But professionally, it was a graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said, no, this is not for me. And that's when the entrepreneur in me started, because then I had clients who said, hey, come work for us, just live anywhere you want, and you'll do some marketing for us and this, that, and everything else. And that worked out for a little bit. But that was actually a segue into my journey with cancer, my journey with medicine. Because when I left New York, I moved to Seattle. I wanted a 180-degree change. And in Seattle, nobody meets with you if you don't run with them, bike with them, swim with them. If you're not working out with them, if you don't work out with them, you can't have a conversation. So I'm sitting here huffing and puffing on a Peloton going, so do you think we could have a cup of coffee after? I mean, I got really in shape.
You went from bagels to Pelotons, huh?
I went to bagels to Pelotons and all that. I hated exercising. Now I love to exercise. I mean, I have a really good attitude about it because it's just something that physically puts you in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was there, I got sick again, even in a great lifestyle. Sick in the same sense that I got sick with bad bronchitis in New York. And when I went to see my doctor in Seattle to check everything out, he goes, let's do a full physical. And when he did the full physical, he saw a lump in my breast. This lump, I had been checking with my father, who was a breast cancer specialist himself and taught me how to, feel my own breasts and for things. And I had remembered, this is from earlier days with my father. And so he said, well, let's check it out. And at that time, serendipity, I had my old headhunter call me and goes, Jenn, my wife was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Promise me you go get a sonogram because you can't detect anything. And then all of a sudden a girlfriend from Wall Street days called me from Australia, same week. And she goes, Jenn, what's the matter with you? I was like, what did I do now? She goes, nothing. I woke up this morning and I had a feeling that something was wrong with you. And then I got the results from my own doctor. And he goes, I want you in to go get surgery. I said, wait a minute, it's malignant. You told me the time before this is no big deal. He goes, but I want it out. I really want it out. So when I went for surgery, doctor looked in, it was cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I had to go through 3 months of treatment.
How old were you at the time?
Oh, shit. I think I was in my... I was 53, 54.
Wow.
And that was devastating for me. Devastating in the sense that, you're discombobulated. And when you go through cancer and everything, there are a lot of things that you go through. Socially, people, you're a pariah. They think that if they touch you, you're radioactive or something like that. My family never came to my aid in any way. And I all of a sudden had people popping up. I had a girlfriend from Australia who flew over for 2 weeks to take care of me. I had friends who came from New York to take care of me and stuff. I had neighbors who I thought were creeps, who weren't creeps, who would take care of me, right? So you can't judge a book by its cover. And later on, when I went to my doctor who made me get the surgery, I said, Kelly, what made you tell me that I should get it out? And he goes, Jenn, I'm sitting at home at night. I'm reading a book that you gave me. All of a sudden, his wife turns over, and she's a good friend of mine. She turns over, and she's half asleep, and he goes, Kelly, I just dreamt that Jenn T had cancer. And then she rolled back, went to sleep, and his jaw just dropped. And he was seeing me the next day.
Wow.
So 3 people in my life And if I was a New Yorker with that huge ego,
Yep.
what my friends told me from New York is if I had still been in New York, that ego would have killed me, because I would have looked at the doctor and said, F you. You don't know what you're talking about.
You know, this is one of the things that I really learned to embrace, because as a fact-based, scientific-based, cite your sources attorney, this idea of intuition was so difficult for me to wrap my head around. I didn't necessarily believe in coincidences. I also hate the phrase, everything happens for a reason. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. In fact, I saw a meme once that said, yes, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes that reason is you're a dumbass and you don't listen, right?
But it's true.
But it is true.
That's true.
It's still
you're a
reason.
dumbass and you don't listen.
I think that what I've learned is the power of our unconscious mind in communicating with us.
Yep.
And I've learned more than anything that if somebody pops into my awareness, or something pops into my awareness, it is never an accident.
Yep.
Ever an accident. And I think all too often we chalk up these I just thought about you moments, or somebody pops in our head and we just chalk that up as, oh, I guess I'm just thinking about that person. Or when in reality, how many times has somebody popped in your head and then you've reached out to them and said, hey, I don't know why you just popped in my head today, so I wanted to reach out and say hi. And they're like, oh my God, you have no idea how much I needed to hear from someone today. Yep. Or maybe they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you knew this. I just got the best news ever and I'm so excited to share it. But there's a reason. There's this intertwined human connection. So I love that that played such a big role in your story. You know, we've talked a lot about courage, and I know that that's so incredibly important to you. You have such an amazing journey ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
That you are starting to embrace and open up to.
Yes.
What role is courage going to play in your future?
It's on a very, very small part, but not small. It's getting me beyond the starting line. All right?
What does that mean for you?
That means taking an idea and executing. That means staying in the process and finishing. And it doesn't mean finishing at 100%. It means finishing anything. Because, you know, if you don't do anything, it's still zero. But if you do something, you're maybe 5 or 10% along the way. And even if you drop it at that point in the process, you're still 5 to 10% along than you were before.
Yeah.
And this, sometimes I call it Asian perfection, because this is what I grew up with, right? That, you know, you don't do it until it's 100% there.
Yep.
And I have to get that idea of perfection out, because I end up stopping myself with a great idea and then looking around going, that was my idea. I was like, no, it was their idea. You thought of it at the same time, but they executed and you didn't.
Yeah.
And it's the execution part for me that takes the most courage, because it's me at the starting line and it's me pushing through. And all the coaching I do for my athletes and non-athletes in my massage practice, this is what I help them do, is to get beyond the starting line for themselves so that they feel different barometric pressure, different airspace, just different space from where they are, which is stagnant, into something that is more magnetic and drawing them towards their goal.
Yeah, it's interesting you describe it that way, as getting past the finish line, because when I ran World's Toughest Mudder, it's a 5-mile loop from the finish line to the start line of the next lap. You've got your pit, the area where everybody's tents are set up, and it's maybe, I don't know, 1/10 of a mile, 2/10 of a mile. It is the longest stretch of that race.
Yep.
Because and I've always said that the hardest, longest distance you'll ever face is from the finish line of one moment to the start line of the next, right? Because we do get in our head. It's safe. It's safe in that analytical spot. What is the big, hairy, obnoxious, amazing, terrifying goal that's in Jenn's future?
I've had this bee up my butt for probably 30 years, even when I was on Wall Street. And that is building a wellness center that isn't, hold on, that isn't a group of booths that I've rented out to all these people, but more importantly, a cohesive practice of holistic as alternative and Western doctors who can work cohesively together towards programs for individuals, whether you be a child, a 20-something, in your middle ages, geriatrics, grandparents, that you could have a whole family of people walk in and they would disperse and do what was good for them and right for them as an activity, and everybody walks out together with similar mindsets, similar goals.
Yeah.
And a support system to execute what needs to be done, because healthcare the way it is, we've got to do it ourselves.
Yeah, I don't even think that we can call it healthcare. I heard a doctor one day say, I'm really tired of somebody calling it healthcare. It's sick care. If we really cared about health, we'd do things entirely differently.
Absolutely.
And that was so interesting to me. If anybody wants to learn more about Flow Massage, about what you do, how you help people in the Las Vegas area, or if they want to learn more about your story and how you can assist people outside of the Las Vegas area, what is the best way for them to reach you?
My phone number is on my website, which is flowmassage.info, or you can Google me, Flow Massage Therapy LLC, and all my reviews come up. My phone number comes up. I'm open to a 15-30-minute free consultation just to talk about your situation, whether it be chronic or recent, and to see if we can do anything, because flow massage is a practice of a group of people who are all like-minded, all of us with different talents and different interests that we have passion for, and that's what we do.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, and it has been such an incredible experience watching you continue to drop that ego and just become, I mean, when I met you, you were already this person who cared about giving so much. Through networking, you cared about humans, and to see you start to realize just how amazing and powerful you are without that ego has been such an incredible journey to watch.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for coming on, Jenn.
Thank you for having me, Wendy.